So we go from a category where we praise games that we were pleasantly surprised by to the next one, which is the most disappointing game of 2017. This is the antithesis of the last category. This is a game we had high hopes for, but ultimately ended up falling well short. So Matt, what is your pick for most disappointing game?
Just in under the wire is Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yeah, I kind of got that vibe from last week
yeah.
And the play view that we did with it and everything.
Yeah, I was just, I mean, it's just so much, like you said, the kind of the Japanese sort of cultural divide. You know, there's a lot of anime trope crap in here. And actually, after after the show, I was playing it more over the weekend, and I got to an optional event that I'd missed before, and I went and did it, and it was basically a scene in which the little comedy relief bird potato guy.
Of course, there's that guy.
Teaches the main Blade girl how to act more like a maid, so the main guy will like her more, because otherwise boys don't like it unless you're submissive and all this. And I was like, it was like the Seinfeld the bet episode.
Oh yeah.
I just came in like Kramer, just I'm out. Like it's like that was it. Like that was as far as I go with this game. And I got through Xenoblade Chronicles X pretty well, even though it had a lot of like that same kind of like anime style trope, like, you know, anime series, even episode storytelling and stupid humor and everybody like falling over and shit. I got through it because the world was so interesting to explore, and it felt like you were in this like alien environment and like, you know, seeing new things over each, and like that's just not really there in this game to the same degree, and it had nothing left to hook me. Maybe I'll go back to it like if I bring the Switch with me on the holidays or something and try to get back into it. But I'm probably just gonna play Mario. You know, like if I don't turn the Switch on, I've got a lot of better stuff to play, and this game really let me down in ways that I didn't expect.
And you have been a huge proponent / fan of this series for years.
Yeah, especially, and also like I was willing to kind of, you know, sidestep some of this criticism for Xenoblade Chronicles X because it doesn't have a 2 at the end of it.
Right.
You know, it's a side story. It's a sci-fi thing instead of a fantasy thing. It's clearly not following up on the first game, but the first game is one of my favorite RPGs ever, and this one is really not. Like it's.
Well, then look, if you don't like the game, and then you're staring down the barrel of 80 to 100 hours to finish it, that's really hard to overcome.
So, I mean, the combat system, the combat is fun. I enjoy it. Like the combat lives up to my expectations of a Xenoblade combat system, but like the trappings and the presentation, I just can't take it anymore. So,
all right.
And I was really hoping that, we've been making fun of the character designs in this since they unveiled it at the beginning of the year, but like I was really hoping that I would be able to, you know, power past that, and I just gave up. I just can't.
All right. Well, my most disappointing game for 2017 is Yooka-Laylee. So maybe some of you guys know, maybe some of you don't. I'm a big fan of 3D platformers. I have been ever since the genre started with Super Mario 64. So I am more than willing to give a little leeway for this genre. The other part of it is this is essentially the old Rare.
Yep.
Most of the people who made the Banjo games and Donkey Kong 64, they left to become Playtonic and to create this game. And so my expectations for this game were frickin' sky high. I was like, okay, well, these guys essentially created the creme de la creme of this genre decades ago and haven't really had a shot to come back and kind of look at what's changed in games over the last 10 plus years and incorporate that stuff and maybe put their own spin on it. And instead what I got was literally a game that could have been designed back in the late 90s. It really showed very little progression forward. In some ways, it was a regression from what we got with some of the Banjo games. So I was hugely, hugely disappointed by this. It's not a bad game by any stretch. I mean, it's not terrible.
It's not a great game, no.
It's not. It's not a great game.
Like, this was definitely on my short list for this category as well.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of this category is how excited were you versus what did you get? And because my expectations and my anticipation for this game was so high, to get anything but excellence from it was a huge disappointment. And
oh, God, I hated having to do all the turn into a thing and trundle across the landscape stuff. Oh.
And I mean, that's the thing about this game is like, look, Rare and that team has had plenty of time to go back and look at the long-term view of the Banjo games that it made for the N64. None of that should be a secret at this point. Or go back and even look at games like Cameo, where people had complaints about stuff like this, and it just seemed like they just completely ignored a lot of the feedback that has come in from those games from decades ago and just decided to make a clone of those games in 1080p. That's really what I got out of this. Is like, hey, here's the Banjo we didn't make back then, but we could have in 1080p, and that's good enough. And it wasn't good enough. And the characters aren't as engaging or memorable as Banjo and Kazooie were. It was just a big disappointment for me. And look, I do realize it is coming out on Switch, or maybe it just came out. Yeah, it came out like yesterday or the day before. And so I know there's a lot of you out there who own a Switch who are maybe excited about this. All I'm going to say is temper your enthusiasm a little bit for this. You don't have a lot of choice on Switch. I get it. You may have finished Mario. You've already finished Zelda. Maybe you finished Champions Ballad DLC of Zelda. You're done with all the stuff you got on the Switch. You're looking for something new to play. You're from the N64 era. I get it. I wouldn't tell you not to buy this game. I would just say temper your enthusiasm for it. It's not going to blow your doors off. Like
consider just playing Mario again.
Yeah, or just try to get all the moons in Mario. I think you'll.
Yeah, you're not. You didn't do that yet.
No.
We know.
Well, I know some people have. Believe me,
some have.
A lot have. Believe it or not, man.
But if you've done that, ukulele's probably not going to satisfy you either.
Yeah,
clearly you're working on a level of platforming that ukulele cannot deliver.
That honestly might be the biggest detriment to ukulele on Switch, is that so many people just came off of Super Mario Odyssey, so their expectations are going to be sky high.
Because it doesn't feel good.
It doesn't.
To play.
That's the other thing. Like, the controls just don't feel right. Like, and I would actually argue that Super Mario Odyssey doesn't feel exactly right to me.
No, but it feels more than this does.
Oh yeah. Like, you will definitely blame the controls in this game on dying, without a doubt, several times. So, yeah, I had high expectations for ukulele. Unfortunately, it failed to deliver. I hope Playtonic, one, doesn't give up, but two, for its next game, it takes a little bit more time. I feel like this game was created way too quickly for it to have ever turned out to meet my expectations. So, there you have it. Ukulele. I really was excited for that game. I had it. I drafted it in my fantasy team. I'm like, hey, if they can't make a good platformer, nobody can make a good platformer.
Turns out nobody can make a good platformer.
It did turn out that way.